Ryan Cooper sat alone at the corner table of Marcello's, checking his phone for the 8th time. 7:03 p.m. She was 33 minutes late. His blind date wasn't coming. He could feel it. That familiar weight of disappointment settling in his chest. He should have known better. 5 years after losing his wife, maybe he just wasn't meant to. The restaurant door exploded open. 2 little girls burst inside, maybe 7 years old, wearing matching dresses, their hair wild, their faces streaked with tears and something else. Something that made Ryan's stomach drop. Dirt. Scratches. One girl had blood on her collar. They looked around the restaurant frantically, desperately, their eyes scanning faces until they locked onto Ryan. They ran straight toward him. "Are you Ryan?" One gasped, barely able to breathe. "Ryan Cooper?" Ryan stood up fast, his chair scraping loudly. "Yes, what's wrong?" "What happened to you?" The second girl grabbed his arm with both hands, her small fingers digging in hard. Her voice came out in a broken sob. "Our mom, she was coming here to meet you, but men came to our house. They broke in," the first twin interrupted, words tumbling over each other. "They were yelling and she told us to run and we ran and—" Ryan crouched down to their level, his heart pounding. "Slow down. Where's your mother now?" Both girls spoke at the same time, their voices overlapping in panic. "They beat our mom. She's dying." The restaurant went quiet. Every head turned toward them. Ryan's training as a physical therapist kicked in before his mind could catch up. "Where? Where is she?" "Our house," one twin cried. 3 blocks that way." She pointed with a shaking hand. "She's on the floor." There was blood everywhere and she wasn't moving and Ryan already had his phone out, dialing 911, grabbing the girl's hands. "What's your address? Tell me your address right now." As the first twin choked out the street number to both Ryan and the emergency operator, the second twin pulled on his sleeve, her face pale with terror. "Please," she whispered. "Please hurry. We don't know if she's still breathing." Ryan was already running toward the door, the girl's hands tight in his phone pressed to his ear as he gave the dispatcher information he barely understood himself. Behind him, someone called out about the bill. Ryan didn't stop. 3 blocks away, a woman he'd never met was dying. And somehow, her daughters had found him in a city of thousands. Had found him and believed he would help. He had to run faster. The girls led him through the streets, their small legs pumping hard to keep up with his pace. Ryan kept the 911 operator on the line, kept moving, kept his mind focused on getting there. The twins were crying as they ran, gasping for breath, but they didn't slow down. "Right here!" one of them shouted, pointing at a 2-story house with a white fence. The front door was wide open, hanging crooked on its hinges like someone had kicked it in. Ryan's blood went cold. "Stay behind me," he ordered the girls as they reached the porch. "Don't come inside until I tell you it's safe." "But our mom—" "I'll get to her, I promise. But you two stay right here." He pushed through the doorway, his eyes adjusting to the interior lighting. The living room was destroyed, furniture overturned, broken glass everywhere, picture frames shattered on the floor. And then he saw her, a woman lying motionless near the couch, her blonde hair matted with blood, her face swollen and bruised beyond recognition. She was wearing a nice dress, heels kicked off nearby. She'd been getting ready for their date. Ryan dropped to his knees beside her, his fingers finding her neck, searching for a pulse. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" Nothing. He pressed harder, adjusting his position. Come on, there, faint, but there." She was alive. "I have a pulse," he shouted into the phone. "Victim is unconscious, severe head trauma, facial injuries, breathing is shallow. Where's the ambulance?" 2 minutes out, the dispatcher said. "Stay with her. Keep her neck stable. Don't move her." Ryan heard sirens in the distance. He looked back at the doorway where the twins stood frozen, holding each other, their eyes wide with horror. "She's alive," Ryan said firmly, making sure they heard him. "Your mom is alive. Help is almost here. One of the girls let out a sob that sounded like relief and terror mixed together. The ambulance arrived 90 seconds later, followed immediately by 2 police cars. Paramedics swarmed into the house. Ryan stepped back, giving them room to work. They moved with practiced efficiency, checking vitals, stabilizing her neck, getting an oxygen mask on her face. "Severe concussion, possible skull fracture," one paramedic said. "Multiple contusions, broken ribs. We need to move now." They loaded her onto a stretcher. The twins tried to follow, but a police officer gently held them back. "Girls, we need to ask you some questions," the officer said softly. "No!" one twin screamed. "We have to go with our mom." Ryan stepped forward without thinking. "Officer, they just watched their mother get attacked. They're terrified. Can they ride with me to the hospital? You can question them there." The officer looked at Ryan skeptically. "And who are you?" "I'm—" Ryan stopped. What was he? A stranger? A failed blind date? "I'm Ryan Cooper. Their mother and I were supposed to meet tonight. The girls found me when this happened." Another officer approached, older, more experienced. "Let them go to the hospital. We'll follow up there. Right now, we need to secure this scene." The first officer nodded reluctantly. "Fine, but don't leave the hospital. We'll need statements from all of you." Ryan looked down at the twins. "What are your names?" "I'm Ava," one said quietly. "She's Grace." "Okay, Ava and Grace. We're going to follow your mom to the hospital right now, okay?" They both nodded, grabbing his hands again. Ryan's car was still parked at the restaurant 3 blocks away. One of the officers offered to drive them to the hospital instead. They climbed into the back of the police cruiser, the twins sandwiched between Ryan and an empty seat. Through the windshield, Ryan watched the ambulance pull away, lights flashing, siren wailing. "What's your mom's name?" Ryan asked gently as they followed. "Nicole Harrison," Grace whispered. "Is she going to die?" Ryan wanted to promise her number, wanted to tell her everything would be fine. But he'd seen enough injuries in his career to know better than to make promises he couldn't keep. "The doctors are going to do everything they can," he said instead. "Your mom is strong, and she's breathing. That's what matters right now." "Who were those men?" Ava asked suddenly, her voice shaking. "Why did they hurt her?" "I don't know," Ryan said, "but the police are going to find out." At the hospital, everything became chaos. Nicole was rushed into emergency surgery immediately. The twins were taken to a private waiting room where a social worker met them. Ryan tried to leave, to give them space, but both girls grabbed onto him and wouldn't let go. "Please don't leave us," Grace begged. "Please." The social worker, a kind-looking woman named Patricia, pulled Ryan aside. "Do the girls have any other family we can call?" "I don't know. I just met them 20 minutes ago." Patricia's eyebrows shot up. "You're not family?" Ryan explained the situation as quickly as he could. The blind date. The girls running into the restaurant, finding Nicole. Patricia listened, her expression shifting from confusion to understanding to something like sympathy. "Well," she said finally, "until we can reach other family members, you're all they've got. Are you willing to stay?" Ryan looked at Ava and Grace huddled together on a plastic waiting room chair, their dresses dirty and torn, their faces still streaked with tears and fear. They were staring at him like he was the only stable thing in a world that had just collapsed. "Yeah," he said, "I'll stay." His phone buzzed. Jessica, his sister-in-law, calling for the 3rd time. He'd forgotten about her completely. He stepped into the hallway and answered. "Ryan, where are you? Nicole never showed up at the restaurant and you're not answering and—" "Jessica, slow down. Something happened. Something bad." He explained everything. When he finished, Jessica was silent for a long moment. "Oh my God," she finally breathed. "Is Nicole—" "She's in surgery." "It's bad, Jess. Really bad." "I'm coming to the hospital." "Which one?" "Sacred Heart. But Jess, I need you to do something else first. Can you pick up Jake from your place and bring him here? I don't know how long I'm going to be, and these girls need someone to stay with them." "Of course. I'll be there in 30 minutes." Ryan went back to the waiting room. Ava and Grace hadn't moved. Patricia had brought them juice boxes and crackers, but they sat untouched on the table. "Do you girls know if your mom has any family we should call?" Ryan asked, sitting down across from them. "Grandparents, aunts or uncles?" "Grandma and Grandpa live in Oregon," Ava said. "We see them at Christmas." "What about your dad?" Both girls went rigid. Grace's eyes filled with tears again. Ava's jaw clenched in a way that looked far too adult for a 7-year-old. "We don't see our dad," Ava said flatly. Something cold settled in Ryan's stomach. "Why not?" The twins looked at each other. Some silent communication passed between them. "He scares us," Grace whispered. "Mom got a divorce because he was mean. He used to yell a lot. He never hit us, but he threw things. Mom said we didn't have to see him anymore after the divorce." Ryan felt pieces clicking together in his mind. "Grace, Ava, I need you to think very carefully. When those men broke into your house tonight, did you see their faces?" Both girls nodded slowly. "Did you recognize any of them?" Another long silence. Then Ava spoke, her voice barely audible. "One of them was our dad." The waiting room door opened. 2 police officers entered, the same ones from the house. The older officer, whose name tag read Sergeant Morrison, sat down with a notepad. "Girls, I know this is hard, but we need you to tell us exactly what happened tonight. Can you do that?" Ava and Grace looked at Ryan. He nodded encouragingly. "It's okay. Tell them the truth." Ava started. Her voice shook, but she pushed through. "Mom was getting ready for her date. She was happy. She showed us Mr. Ryan's picture that Miss Jessica sent her. She told us she'd be back by 9, and Mrs. Chen from next door was going to check on us." Grace picked up the story. "We were in our room playing. Then we heard the front door crash, like someone kicked it. Mom screamed, and we heard her run downstairs. We opened our bedroom door a little bit and looked," Ava continued. "There were 3 men in the living room. Big men. Mom was telling them to leave, that she was calling the police." "What did the men look like?" Sergeant Morrison asked gently. "One was really tall with a shaved head," Grace said. "One had tattoos all over his arms. And one was—" Her voice broke. "One was our dad." Morrison leaned forward. "You're sure it was your father?" "Yes," both girls said together. "What's your father's name?" "Trevor Madden," Ava said. "He and Mom got divorced 2 years ago." Morrison exchanged a glance with his partner, who immediately stepped out of the room with his phone to his ear. "What happened next?" Morrison asked. Grace's hands were shaking. "Our dad was yelling at Mom. He said she owed him money. He said she stole everything from him. Mom said she didn't owe him anything, that the divorce was final, that he needed to leave." "Then the tall man pushed her," Ava said, her voice getting smaller. "She fell against the couch. Dad started yelling louder. He said something about her company being worth millions now and how it should have been his money." Ryan's hands clenched into fists. He forced himself to stay quiet, to let the girls finish. "Mom tried to run for her phone," Grace continued, "but the man with tattoos grabbed her, and then they started—" She stopped, tears streaming down her face. Ava finished for her. "They started hitting her. All 3 of them. She was screaming and trying to protect her head, but they kept hitting her and kicking her, and we were so scared but we didn't know what to do." "You did exactly the right thing," Morrison said firmly. "What happened next?" "Mom saw us at the top of the stairs," Grace said. "She yelled at us to run to the restaurant and find Mr. Ryan. So we ran down the back stairs and out the back door. We heard Dad yelling behind us, but we didn't stop. We just ran." Morrison looked at Ryan. "And they found you at Marcello's?" "Yes, I was waiting for Nicole. The girls ran in and told me what happened. I called 911 immediately and we went to the house." The younger officer returned, his expression grim. He whispered something to Morrison, who nodded slowly. "Trevor Madden has a record," Morrison told Ryan quietly. "Assault charges from a bar fight 3 years ago. Restraining order filed by Nicole Harrison 18 months ago that expired 6 months back. He's got 2 known associates with criminal records. We've got units looking for them now. He knew where she lived, Ryan said. He knew she'd be alone with the girls. We're pulling phone records, checking his last known address. We'll find him. A doctor appeared in the doorway, still in surgical scrubs. Everyone stood up. The twins ran to Ryan, each grabbing one of his hands. "I'm Dr. Patel," the woman said. Her face was carefully neutral in that way doctors have when the news isn't good. "Nicole Harrison is out of surgery. We've stabilized her, but her injuries are extensive. Severe concussion, fractured skull, 3 broken ribs, internal bleeding that we've managed to stop. She's in critical condition." "Is she going to wake up?" Grace asked, her voice tiny. Dr. Patel crouched down to the girl's level. "Right now, your mom is in something called a medically induced coma. That means we're keeping her asleep on purpose so her brain can heal. We won't know the full extent of her injuries until the swelling in her brain goes down. That could take days." "Can we see her?" Ava asked. "Soon. We need to get her settled in the ICU first, but yes, you can see her." After Dr. Patel left, Patricia, the social worker, returned with an update. "I've reached Nicole's parents in Oregon. They're booking the first flight they can get, but they won't arrive until tomorrow afternoon. I've also contacted Mrs. Chen, your neighbor. She's willing to stay at your house with the girls tonight." "No," Grace cried out. "We want to stay with Mom." "Sweetie, you can't stay in the ICU overnight," Patricia said gently. "You need to go home, get some sleep." "We're not going back to that house," Ava shouted. "What if Dad comes back?" "What if those men come back?" Patricia looked helpless. She turned to Ryan. "Is there any way they can stay with me?" Ryan heard himself say. "Just for tonight, until their grandparents get here. You're not an approved guardian. I'd need to get clearance. Then get clearance. These girls just watched their mother nearly get beaten to death. They're traumatized. They're not going back to that house tonight, and they're not staying with a neighbor they barely know. They're staying where they feel safe." Patricia looked at the twins. "Is that what you want? To stay with Mr. Ryan?" Both girls nodded emphatically. "All right," Patricia sighed. "I'll make some calls, but this is highly irregular." Jessica arrived 20 minutes later with Jake in tow. Ryan's 5-year-old son took one look at the crying twins and immediately went into his backpack. He pulled out his favorite toy car, the blue one with the racing stripe that he'd carried everywhere since he was 3. He walked up to Grace and held it out to her. "You can keep this for tonight. It helps when I'm scared." Grace took the car with trembling hands. "Thank you," she whispered. Jake nodded seriously. Then he went to Ava and took off his jacket, the one with the superhero patch his mom had sewn on before she died. "You're cold. You can wear this." Ava put on the jacket even though it was too small. She pulled it tight around herself. Jessica's eyes were red. She'd been crying in the car. She hugged Ryan tightly. "How is Nicole?" "Critical. They don't know if she'll wake up." "And the girls?" Ryan looked at Ava and Grace sitting on the floor with Jake, the 3 children speaking in hushed voices. "They're holding on. Barely." An hour later, a nurse came to tell them they could see Nicole for 5 minutes. The ICU was cold and sterile, full of beeping machines and harsh lights. Nicole lay in the bed surrounded by monitors and tubes. Her face was so swollen that Ryan barely recognized her from the photos Jessica had shown him. Both her eyes were black and swollen shut. Bandages covered part of her head where they'd operated. Ava and Grace approached the bed slowly, holding hands. "Mommy," Grace whispered. "Can you hear us?" Nicole didn't move. The ventilator breathed for her, the sound mechanical and rhythmic. "We're okay, Mom," Ava said, her voice shaking. "Mr. Ryan is taking care of us, and Jake gave us his stuff, and we're going to stay with them tonight. But you have to wake up, okay? You have to wake up because we need you." Grace touched her mother's hand carefully, like she was afraid she might break her. "I love you, Mommy. Please wake up." Ryan felt his throat close up. He'd seen a lot of injuries in his career. But watching two little girls trying to talk to their unconscious mother was somehow worse than anything he'd experienced. The nurse told them time was up. Ava and Grace didn't want to leave, but Ryan gently guided them toward the door. "We'll come back tomorrow. I promise." They left the hospital just after midnight. Ryan's apartment was small, a 2-bedroom place he'd moved into after his wife died because he couldn't stand being in the house where they'd planned to raise Jake together. Jessica had offered to take the girls to her place, but they'd refused. They wanted to stay with Ryan. The apartment was a mess. Ryan hadn't expected company. Dirty dishes in the sink, Jake's toys scattered across the living room floor, laundry piled on the couch. He suddenly felt embarrassed, but the twins didn't seem to notice or care. "You girls can sleep in my room," Ryan said. "I'll take the couch." "Where does Jake sleep?" Ava asked. "I have my own room," Jake announced proudly. "Want to see?" The twins followed Jake to his small bedroom covered in drawings and dinosaur posters. Jake showed them his bed, his bookshelf, his toy box. "You can sleep in here with me if you want." "My bed is big." Ava and Grace looked at Ryan. "Can we?" "If Jake doesn't mind sharing." "I don't mind," Jake said. "When my mom was alive, I used to sleep in her bed when I had bad dreams. She said sleeping with people you trust makes the bad dreams go away." Ryan's chest tightened. Jake rarely talked about his mother. Hearing him mention her so casually, so matter-of-factly, was both beautiful and painful. Jessica had stopped at the girls' house to grab some clothes and toiletries, supervised by a police officer. The house was still a crime scene, but they'd let her get essentials. Ava and Grace changed into pajamas while Ryan made up Jake's bed with extra pillows and blankets. The 3 children climbed into bed together, Jake in the middle, a twin on each side. Ryan sat on the edge of the bed. "Mr. Ryan?" Grace said quietly. "Why are you helping us? You don't even know us." Ryan thought about that. "You know what my job is? I'm a physical therapist. That means I help people who are hurt learn how to use their bodies again. Sometimes people come to me after car accidents or surgeries or sports injuries. And you know what I've learned?" The 3 children stared at him, waiting. "I've learned that the scariest part of being hurt isn't the pain. It's feeling alone. It's thinking nobody cares if you get better. So when someone shows up, when someone says, 'I'm here, I'm going to help you through this,' that's when healing really starts." He looked at Ava and Grace. "Your mom needed help tonight. You needed help tonight. I'm not going to pretend I understand why this happened or what's going to happen next. But I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere until I know you're all safe." Ava's eyes filled with tears. "Our dad used to tell us that asking for help made you weak." "Your dad was wrong," Ryan said firmly. "Asking for help is one of the bravest things a person can do." He stayed with them until all 3 children fell asleep, exhausted from the trauma of the day. Then he quietly left the room and collapsed on the couch. Jessica had stayed, making coffee in his kitchen, cleaning up quietly. She sat down beside him and handed him a mug. "You okay?" she asked. Ryan laughed bitterly. "I went on a blind date tonight. How did I end up here?" "You ended up here because you're a good person. Because when those girls needed help, you didn't hesitate. Sarah would be proud of you. Sarah, his wife, the woman who died bringing Jake into the world. He hadn't let himself think about her much tonight, but now the memories came flooding back. The hospital, the complications, the choice between saving Sarah or saving the baby. Sarah's whispered words, "Save our son. Promise me you'll save our son." He'd kept that promise, but losing her had broken something inside him that never fully healed. "I don't know what I'm doing, Jess," he admitted. "Those girls are traumatized. Their mom might not make it, and I'm just some guy who was stood up for a date." "You're not just some guy. You're the guy who showed up when it mattered." Jessica squeezed his hand. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow is going to be hard." She left around 2 in the morning. Ryan lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet sounds of his apartment. Somewhere in the darkness, 3 children slept. 1 who'd lost his mother 5 years ago. 2 who might lose theirs tonight. His phone buzzed with a text from Sergeant Morrison. Trevor Madden's apartment is empty. Neighbors say they saw him and 2 other men loading stuff into a truck this afternoon. We've issued a warrant for his arrest. We'll find him. Ryan closed his eyes. Tomorrow he'd have to explain to Ava and Grace that their father was wanted by police, that he'd run, that he might have planned this attack in advance. But tonight, he just needed to sleep. He woke up 6 hours later to the sound of quiet crying. He sat up quickly. Grace stood in the living room doorway in her pajamas, tears streaming down her face. "Bad dream?" Ryan asked softly. She nodded. "Come here." Grace climbed onto the couch next to him. Ryan grabbed a blanket and wrapped it around her shoulders. "You want to talk about it?" "I dreamed about Mom," Grace whispered. "I dreamed she died and we had to go live with Dad and he hurt us too." "That's not going to happen. I promise you that's not going to happen." "How do you know?" Ryan didn't have a good answer for that. He couldn't promise Nicole would survive. He couldn't promise Trevor would be caught. He couldn't promise anything. "I know, because there are people who care about you and your sister. Your grandparents are flying in today. The police are looking for your dad. The doctors are doing everything they can for your mom. And me and Jake and my sister-in-law, Jessica, we're all here. You're not alone, Grace. No matter what happens, you're not alone." Grace leaned against him. "Jake is nice. He shared his bed with us and didn't complain even when Ava kicked him in her sleep." Ryan smiled. "Jake's a good kid. He knows what it's like to be scared. Because his mom died." "Yeah. Do you miss her?" "Every day." "Does it ever stop hurting?" Ryan thought carefully before answering. "It changes. At first, the hurt is so big you can't think about anything else, but slowly it becomes smaller. It doesn't go away, but it makes room for other things, good things, like watching Jake learn to ride a bike or hearing him laugh at a joke. The hurt is still there, but so is the joy. They exist together." "I don't want Mom to die," Grace said, her voice breaking. "I know, sweetheart. I know." They sat together in the quiet until Grace fell back asleep against Ryan's shoulder. He didn't move, didn't want to wake her. When Jake and Ava appeared an hour later, they found them like that. "Is Grace okay?" Ava asked quietly. She had a bad dream. "She's okay now." Ava climbed onto the couch on Ryan's other side. Jake squeezed in next to Grace. The 4 of them sat there as morning light started filtering through the windows. A strange little family, born from crisis. Ryan's phone rang around 8. The hospital. His heart jumped into his throat as he answered. "Mr. Cooper?" "This is Dr. Patel. Nicole's condition hasn't changed, but we've completed more scans. I wanted to update you before her parents arrive." "How bad is it?" "The skull fracture is healing as expected. The internal bleeding has stopped, but the brain swelling is significant. We won't know the extent of neurological damage until she wakes up. And right now, we don't know when that will be. It could be days, could be weeks. But she will wake up." A pause. "We hope so, but I won't lie to you, Mr. Cooper. The longer she remains unconscious, the worse the prognosis becomes." Ryan thanked her and hung up. 3 pairs of eyes stared at him. "Mom's okay," he said, because he couldn't tell them anything else. "The doctors say she's stable." "That's good news." Jessica arrived with breakfast and fresh clothes. The twins wore jeans and sweaters that Jessica had grabbed from their house. They looked small and lost in their own clothes. Nicole's parents, Robert and Linda Harrison, arrived at the hospital around noon. They were in their late 60s, clearly devastated, clearly exhausted from emergency flights and fear. When they saw Ava and Grace, they broke down crying, pulling the girls into fierce hugs. "We're so sorry," Linda kept saying. "We're so sorry we weren't here." Robert looked at Ryan with confusion. "You're Ryan Cooper? The man from the date?" "Yes, sir. Jessica told us what you did, how you found Nicole, how you've been taking care of the girls." His voice cracked. "We can't thank you enough. Anyone would have done the same." "No," Robert said firmly. "Not anyone. You didn't have to stay. You didn't have to help. But you did. That means something. They all went to see Nicole together. She looked the same as last night, unconscious, surrounded by machines, her face still swollen and bruised. Linda sobbed when she saw her daughter. Robert held his wife while she cried. Ava and Grace stood on either side of their mother's bed, each holding one of her hands. "Grandma and Grandpa are here, Mom," Ava said. "We told them you're going to wake up soon. You have to wake up soon." Nicole's ventilator breathed in and out. The monitors beeped steadily, but she didn't move. Over the next 3 days, a routine developed. Robert and Linda rented a hotel room near the hospital. Ryan went back to work, but only for half days. He couldn't focus. His mind kept drifting to the hospital, to Ava and Grace, to Nicole lying in that bed. The girls stayed with their grandparents during the day, but insisted on spending evenings at Ryan's apartment. They'd grown attached to Jake, and Jake to them. The 3 children played together, watched movies together, did homework together. In the midst of trauma, they'd found comfort in each other. On the 4th day, Sergeant Morrison called. "We found Trevor Madden. He was trying to cross into Canada. We've got him in custody along with his 2 accomplices. They're all being charged with attempted murder, assault with intent to kill, breaking and entering, and violating a restraining order." Ryan felt relief wash over him. What happens now? Arraignment is scheduled for tomorrow. He'll be denied bail given the severity of the charges and flight risk. "He's not getting out, Mr. Cooper. He's going to prison for a very long time." Ryan told the twins that evening. Their reactions were complicated. Relief mixed with fear, mixed with something that looked like sadness. "I know he's your dad," Ryan said gently. "And it's okay to feel confused about this. But what he did was wrong, and wrong actions have consequences." "He wasn't always bad," Grace said quietly. "When I was really little, before the yelling started, he used to read us stories." "I remember that." "People are complicated," Ryan said. "Someone can do good things and bad things, but when someone hurts another person the way your dad hurt your mom, they have to face justice. That doesn't mean you can't remember the good parts, but it also doesn't excuse the bad parts." On the 5th day, Nicole's condition changed. Not for better or worse, just different. Dr. Patel called it minimal consciousness. Her eyes would sometimes flutter, her fingers would twitch, but she wasn't awake. Not really. "Is this good or bad?" Linda asked. "It's movement in the right direction," Dr. Patel said carefully. "Her brain is showing more activity. But we still can't predict when or if she'll fully wake up." Ava and Grace visited twice a day, talking to their mother, reading her books, telling her about their days. Jake came too sometimes, sitting quietly while the twins spoke. On the 7th day, Jessica pulled Ryan aside at the hospital. "You know you're going to have to talk to Nicole's family about what happens next, right? About you and the girls." "What do you mean?" "Ryan, you've become important to them. They trust you, they feel safe with you, but they're not your kids. Eventually you're going to have to step back." Ryan knew she was right, but the thought of it felt wrong somehow, like abandoning them just when they needed stability most. That night, Robert asked Ryan to join him for coffee in the hospital cafeteria. They sat across from each other, 2 exhausted men who'd never met before, a week ago. "Linda and I have been talking," Robert said. "We need to discuss the girls' living situation. We're planning to stay here as long as Nicole is hospitalized, but eventually we'll need to go home. We have jobs, responsibilities. We can't stay indefinitely." "I understand." "The thing is, the girls don't want to go back to Nicole's house. Not after what happened there. And they've been asking to stay with you and Jake." Robert looked uncomfortable. "I know that's not fair. You've already done so much, but they feel safe with you. They've bonded with your son. And frankly, I think it's helping them cope." Ryan didn't know what to say. "What I'm asking is, would you be willing to keep them for a while longer? Just until Nicole wakes up and we can figure out a more permanent solution? We'd help with expenses, of course. We'd visit every weekend, But the girls need stability right now, and you seem to provide that for them. They can stay, Ryan said, for as long as they need to. Robert's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, God, thank you. On the 9th day, Ryan was at work when Jessica called. Get to the hospital, now. His heart stopped. Is Nicole? She's waking up. They think she's waking up. Ryan broke every speed limit getting there. He burst into the ICU waiting room where Jessica, Robert, Linda, and the twins were gathered. Dr. Patel was with them. Her eyes opened about 20 minutes ago, Dr. Patel explained. She's not fully conscious yet, but she's responding to stimuli. This is very good news. They let the twins in first, Ryan and the grandparents following. Nicole lay in the bed, her eyes open to slits, unfocused and confused. The ventilator had been removed. She was breathing on her own. Mom? Ava said, her voice shaking. Mom, can you hear us? Nicole's eyes moved toward the sound. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Don't try to talk yet, Dr. Patel said. You've been through significant trauma. Take your time. Grace squeezed her mother's hand. We're here, Mom. We're all here. You're safe. Nicole's fingers twitched, trying to squeeze back. Tears leaked from the corners of her eyes. Over the next hours, Nicole slowly came back, her eyes focused. She started making sounds. By evening, she was whispering single words. By the next morning, she could speak in short sentences. Ryan visited with the twins that afternoon. It was the first time he and Nicole would actually meet while she was conscious. She looked at him with swollen eyes, her face still bruised and bandaged. Ryan? She whispered. Yeah, hi. You saved my life. Your daughters saved your life. They're the brave ones. Nicole's eyes moved to Ava and Grace. My babies, my brave babies. The twins climbed carefully onto the bed, curling against their mother on either side. Nicole wrapped her arms around them despite her obvious pain. I'm so sorry, Nicole whispered. I'm so sorry you had to see that. It's not your fault, Mom, Ava said fiercely. Dad is the one who should be sorry. He's in jail, Grace added. He can't hurt us anymore. Nicole looked at Ryan over her daughters' heads. Jessica told me everything. How you've been taking care of them. How you let them stay with you and Jake. They're good kids. I missed our date, Nicole said, and incredibly, she smiled a little. Terrible first impression. Ryan smiled back. I've had worse. That got a small laugh from her, which turned into a wince of pain. Don't make me laugh. Broken ribs. Sorry. Over the next week, Nicole's recovery progressed. She was moved out of ICU into a regular room. Physical therapists came daily to help her start moving again. She had a long road ahead, broken bones to heal, neurological issues to overcome, trauma to process. But she was alive. She was awake. She was fighting. The twins split their time between the hospital and Ryan's apartment. Nicole insisted they keep going to school, keep playing with Jake, keep having some semblance of normal life. She didn't want them sitting in a hospital room all day. Ryan visited Nicole every evening after work, usually with Jake and the twins. They'd all crowd into her room, the kids telling her about their days, Nicole listening with fierce attention like she was trying to memorize every detail. One evening, after the kids fell asleep watching a movie on the hospital TV, Nicole and Ryan talked quietly. I need to tell you something, Nicole said, about Trevor, about why he did this. You don't have to. I do. You deserve to know. She took a breath. When we got married 11 years ago, I was working entry-level at a tech company. Trevor was between jobs. He said he was an entrepreneur, always had big ideas, but nothing that ever panned out. I supported us financially. Then I had the twins and took maternity leave, and Trevor was supposed to help more. Instead, he started drinking, started getting angry. The yelling started. Ryan listened silently. 5 years into the marriage, I started my own consulting firm. Just me, working from home, taking whatever clients I could get. Trevor hated it. Said I should focus on being a mom, not playing businesswoman. But my company grew. Fast. Within 2 years, I had 15 employees and contracts with major tech companies. Trevor got worse. More drinking, more anger. He never hit me or the girls, but the emotional abuse was constant. Why did you stay? Fear, mostly. Fear of being a single mom. Fear that he'd fight for custody out of spite. Fear that I couldn't handle everything alone. Nicole closed her eyes. Finally, 3 years ago, he threw a chair during an argument. It missed me by inches but put a hole in the wall. The twins saw it. That night I filed for divorce. Got a restraining order. It took a year to finalize everything. What happened after? My company exploded. We landed 3 major contracts right after the divorce was final. Within a year, my business was worth $10 million. Trevor found out. Started harassing me, saying he deserved half of everything because we were married when I started the company. But legally, he had no claim. The divorce was settled. He got what the court ordered and nothing more. So he decided to take what he thought he deserved, Ryan said quietly. I think he planned to scare me into giving him money. I don't think he planned to. Her voice broke. The police said if the twins hadn't run when they did, if you hadn't gotten there so fast, I would have died from internal bleeding. But you didn't die. You're here, and Trevor is going to prison for the rest of his life. My lawyer says he's looking at 25 to 30 years minimum. His 2 friends are cooperating, testifying against him in exchange for reduced sentences. It's over. Finally, it's really over. Ryan reached out and took her hand. The gesture felt natural, comfortable. How are you feeling? Really? Terrified, grateful, confused. She looked at him. We were supposed to have dinner. Instead, you got thrown into the worst crisis of my life, and you stayed. Why did you stay, Ryan? Ryan thought about that. 5 years ago, my wife died giving birth to Jake. I was in a hospital room not too different from this one, and I had to make a choice between saving her or saving our son. She made the choice for me. She told me to save Jake. And then, she was gone. I spent months wishing someone had been there to help me through it. Someone who understood what it felt like to have your whole world fall apart in a single night. He squeezed Nicole's hand gently. When your daughters found me, when I saw them so scared and desperate, I thought about Jake. About what would happen to him if something happened to me. About how terrifying it would be for him to be alone. I couldn't let Ava and Grace feel that way. I couldn't let them think nobody cared. Nicole's eyes filled with tears. You're a good man, Ryan Cooper. I'm just a guy who showed up. Sometimes that's the most important thing. 2 weeks after waking up, Nicole was discharged from the hospital. She couldn't go back to her house. Not yet, maybe not ever. The memories were too painful, and the house was still marked as a crime scene pending trial. Robert and Linda offered to take her and the twins back to Oregon, but Nicole refused. My business is here. The girls' school is here. Our life is here. I'm not letting Trevor chase us away. She rented a furnished apartment temporarily, something small and safe with good security. The twins helped her settle in, but they still spent most evenings at Ryan's apartment. They'd ask to go home to their mom around bedtime, and Ryan would drive them the 10 minutes to Nicole's new place. It became a routine. A strange, unplanned routine that somehow worked. Nicole's physical therapy progressed. She started working from home, taking video calls with her business partner, slowly easing back into her company. The twins went to counseling twice a week to process the trauma. Jake started asking questions about why Ava and Grace were always around. Are they my sisters now? He asked Ryan one night. No, buddy? They're your friends. Good friends. But they're here all the time like sisters. Ryan didn't have a good answer for that. One evening, 6 weeks after the attack, Nicole invited Ryan and Jake to dinner at her new apartment. She'd cooked, or attempted to cook, spaghetti. It was slightly burned, but nobody complained. After dinner, the kids piled onto the couch to watch a movie. Nicole and Ryan cleaned up the kitchen together. I've been thinking, Nicole said, drying a plate. About what happens next. The twins need stability. They need to know what their life looks like going forward. And right now, a huge part of their life is you and Jake. They're always welcome at my place. You know that. I know. But Ryan, it's been 6 weeks. You've had 3 children in your tiny apartment for 6 weeks. You've been driving them to school and therapy and coordinating with me and working full-time. That's not sustainable long-term. I don't mind. I know you don't. That's the problem. Nicole turned to face him. You're so busy taking care of everyone else that you're not taking care of yourself. When's the last time you had a full night's sleep? When's the last time you did something just for you? Ryan couldn't remember. Here's what I'm proposing, Nicole said. Let's figure out a real custody schedule. Not just you helping out when needed, but an actual plan. Maybe the girls stay with you 2 nights a week, with me the rest. We coordinate schedules, split responsibilities, work together as co-parents. Co-parents? Ryan repeated. They love you, Ryan. They trust you. Jake loves them. They've become a unit. Let's stop pretending this is temporary and figure out how to make it work long-term. Nicole, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. We're offering. Let's be honest about what's happening here. Ryan looked into the living room where 3 children sat together. Jake between the twins, all of them laughing at something on the screen. They looked like siblings. They looked like family. Okay, Ryan said. Let's figure it out. They sat at Nicole's small kitchen table and made a plan. Tuesdays and Thursdays, the girls would stay at Ryan's. Weekends alternated. School pickups would be split. Holidays would be discussed and shared. It was pragmatic and organized, like a business arrangement. But it was also something more. You know what's crazy? Nicole said as they worked through the logistics. We still never had that date. Ryan looked up from the calendar they were writing on. What? Our date? The one that got interrupted by my ex-husband trying to kill me. We never actually went on a date. Ryan laughed. I think we skipped a few steps in the normal relationship progression. More than a few. Nicole smiled. Would you want to? Someday. Actually go on a real date where nobody gets attacked and no children are involved? Ryan felt his heart do something complicated in his chest. Yeah, I'd like that. Good, because I owe you dinner at a nice restaurant, one where I actually show up on time. 3 months after the attack, Trevor Madden's trial began. It lasted 2 weeks. The evidence was overwhelming. Forensic reports, witness testimony, the twins' statements, security footage from a neighbor's camera that caught Trevor and his accomplices entering Nicole's house. Ryan sat with Nicole every day of the trial. The twins didn't attend. Their recorded testimony was played instead, sparing them from having to face their father in court. Trevor showed no remorse. He insisted Nicole had provoked him, that she'd stolen his money, that everything was her fault. His defense was weak and desperate. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. 28 years to life. Trevor would be eligible for parole when he was 70 years old. His 2 accomplices got 15 years each. As Trevor was led away in handcuffs, Nicole whispered, "It's over. It's really over." Ryan took her hand. "Yeah, it's over." 4 months after the attack, on a cool Saturday evening in late September, Ryan picked Nicole up for their first real date. No children, no hospitals, no police or lawyers or trials. Just dinner at a nice restaurant. Nicole wore a blue dress and looked nervous. Ryan wore the same shirt he'd worn the night they were supposed to meet the first time. She noticed immediately. "You kept that shirt. It seemed lucky. Despite everything, it brought you into my life." They went to Marcello's, the same restaurant where it all started. They sat at the same table where Ryan had waited alone, where the twins had found him. "This is surreal," Nicole said, looking around. "Being here. Finally. Better late than never." They ordered wine and pasta. They talked about everything. Their childhoods, their dreams, their fears, their hopes for the future. They talked about Sarah, Ryan's late wife, and Nicole didn't flinch or get jealous. She listened with genuine interest. They talked about the trauma of the attack, and Ryan didn't try to minimize it or fix it. He just listened. "I'm scared," Nicole admitted over dessert. "I'm scared that what we have was built on crisis, that when life gets normal, we'll realize we don't actually fit together." "Life is always going to have crisis," Ryan said. "Different crisis, maybe smaller ones, but always something. The question isn't whether we fit together in perfect circumstances. The question is whether we fit together in real ones. And do we?" Ryan thought about the past 4 months. The hospital vigils, the late-night conversations, the shared custody schedule, the way their kids had bonded, the way Nicole made him laugh even on hard days, the way she looked at him like he was someone worth knowing. "Yeah," he said, "I think we do." Nicole smiled. "I think so too." They held hands across the table. Around them, the restaurant buzzed with other diners, other conversations, other lives. But in their corner, in their moment, it was just them. "You know the best part of all this?" Nicole said. "What?" "When the girls are older, when they ask how we met, we get to tell them the truth. That their bravery saved my life. That they found you when I needed you most. That they were the heroes of this story." "They'll probably be embarrassed," Ryan said. "Teenagers hate being called heroes by their parents." "Their parents," Nicole repeated softly. Ryan realized what he'd said. He didn't take it back. Is that okay? Thinking about it that way. More than okay. 6 months after the attack, Nicole sold her old house. She couldn't bear to live there again. Couldn't let her daughters grow up in a place marked by violence. She bought a new house, a bigger one in a neighborhood 15 minutes from Ryan's apartment. "It has 4 bedrooms," she told Ryan excitedly. "One for me, one for each of the twins, and a guest room for when Jake stays over, which I'm hoping is often." Ryan's lease was up in 2 months. He'd been thinking about moving anyway, about getting something bigger now that his life had expanded to include 3 additional people. "What if," he said carefully, "what if we just got one house? Together?" Nicole stopped unpacking boxes. "Together? The kids are already living like siblings. We're already coordinating everything like partners. We spend almost every evening together anyway. What if we just made it official?" "Ryan Cooper, are you asking me to move in with you?" "I'm suggesting we move in together. Equal partners, shared house, co-parents for real." Nicole set down the box she was holding. She walked over to Ryan and kissed him. It was their first kiss. Somehow, in 6 months of building a relationship, they'd never quite gotten there. There'd been hand-holding and forehead kisses and gentle touches, but not this. It was gentle and sure and felt like coming home. "Yes," Nicole said when they pulled apart. "Let's find our house. Let's do this for real." 8 months after the attack, Ryan and Nicole bought a house together. 5 bedrooms, big backyard, good school district, enough space for everyone. Jake got his own room finally. The twins each got their own room, decorated exactly how they wanted. Ryan and Nicole took the master bedroom. Jessica helped them move, shaking her head in amazement. "You know, when I set up that blind date, I never imagined this." "What did you imagine?" Nicole asked. "Maybe you'd hit it off. Maybe date for a few months. Maybe it would work out long term. But this?" Jessica gestured at the chaos of boxes and children and the blending of 2 families. "This is something else entirely." "It's messy," Ryan admitted. "It's perfect," Jessica corrected. The first night in the new house, they ordered pizza and ate on the floor because the dining table hadn't been delivered yet. Jake, Ava, and Grace ran through the empty rooms, their voices echoing, their laughter filling the space. "They're happy," Nicole said, leaning against Ryan. "Yeah, they are. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for something to go wrong. Things will go wrong, that's life, but we'll handle it together." Nicole kissed him. "Together! I like the sound of that." 1 year after the attack, on a warm May evening, Ryan asked Nicole to marry him. Nothing fancy, just the 2 of them and the kids in their backyard. He'd been teaching Jake to ride a bike, and the twins had been picking flowers, and Nicole had been watching from the porch with coffee. Ryan walked up to her, pulled a ring from his pocket, and said, "I bought this 3 months ago. I've been carrying it around, waiting for the perfect moment. But I realized there's no such thing as a perfect moment. There's just real moments. Moments like this, where we're all together and happy and home. So, Nicole Harrison, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life showing up for you and those incredible girls?" Nicole started crying. "Yes, yes, of course, yes." The kids cheered. Jake shouted, "Does this mean Ava and Grace are my sisters now?" "If you want them to be," Ryan said. "I want them to be," Jake said seriously. They got married 3 months later in their backyard. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. Ava and Grace were Nicole's flower girls. Jake was Ryan's best man, taking the job very seriously despite being only 6 years old. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, Jake shouted, "I object to waiting any longer. I want cake." Everyone laughed, including the officiant, who sped through the rest of the ceremony. 2 years after the attack, life had settled into something beautifully ordinary. Ryan still worked as a physical therapist. Nicole still ran her company, which had doubled in size. The kids were thriving in school. They had family dinners every night, family movie nights every Friday, family chaos every day. Ava and Grace still went to therapy, processing trauma that would probably always be part of them. But they were happy. They laughed easily. They felt safe. Jake started calling Nicole Mom without anyone prompting him. She'd cried the first time, holding him tight, telling him she was honored. One evening, Grace asked Ryan, "Do you ever think about that night? The night we found you at the restaurant?" "Sometimes," Ryan admitted. "Why?" "I think about it a lot. I think about how scared I was. But I also think about how we found you. Like Mom somehow knew you'd help us, even though you'd never met. Like it was meant to happen." "Maybe it was," Ryan said. "Do you believe in fate?" Ava asked. Ryan thought about that, about the blind date that never happened, about 2 terrified girls running into a restaurant, about a woman nearly dying but surviving, about a family being built from tragedy. "I believe in showing up," he said finally. "I believe that when people need help, when they reach out, when they trust you with their fear and pain, you show up. And sometimes, when you show up for other people, you end up finding exactly what you needed too." "We needed you," Grace said simply. "I needed you too," Ryan said. "All of you." Nicole came into the room then, fresh from putting Jake to bed. She sat next to Ryan on the couch, the twins on the other side, the 4 of them squeezed together, a family unit that shouldn't work but somehow did. "What are we watching tonight?" Nicole asked. "Something happy," Ava said, "with a good ending." Ryan pulled up a movie, wrapped his arm around Nicole, felt the twins leaning against him. His phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. "Remember that blind date I set up for you?" "You're welcome." He smiled and typed back, "Best blind date I never went on." Because that was the truth. He'd never made it to that date. Nicole had never shown up. Instead, 2 brave little girls had changed everything. They'd run into his life at its most ordinary moment and transformed it into something extraordinary. Sometimes the best things in life happen when plans fall apart, when dates get interrupted, when tragedy strikes and forces strangers to become family. Ryan Cooper had gone to a restaurant expecting dinner and awkward conversation. Instead, he'd found a purpose, a family, a second chance at love, 3 children who needed him, a woman who understood him. He'd found home in the most unexpected way. And as the movie played and the family settled in together, Ryan thought about how he'd almost canceled that blind date, how close he'd come to saying no to Jessica's matchmaking, how different his life would be if he'd just stayed home that night. But he hadn't stayed home. He'd shown up. And when 2 terrified girls had found him and said, "They beat our mom, she's dying," he'd shown up again. That's what mattered. Not the plans that fell apart, not the perfect moments that never came, but the real moments, the hard moments, the moments when showing up made all the difference. Ryan kissed Nicole's forehead. She smiled without looking away from the movie. The twins giggled at something on screen. Jake's voice called from his bedroom, asking for water. "I'll get it," Ryan said, standing up. "I'll come with you," Nicole said. They walked together toward Jake's room, leaving the twins on the couch. In the hallway, Nicole took Ryan's hand. "Happy?" she asked. Ryan thought about everything they'd been through, the trauma, the fear, the slow rebuilding, the choice to trust each other when trust seemed impossible, the choice to build a family from broken pieces. "Yeah," he said, "I'm happy." And he was. Not because life was perfect, not because the past didn't hurt, not because there weren't still hard days and painful memories, but because on a night 2 years ago, when 2 little girls needed a hero, he'd been there. And that single choice had led to everything else. To this family, this home, this love. Sometimes the blind dates we never make it to turn out to be the most important appointments of our lives. In a world that never seems to stop moving, we just shared a quiet moment together. We let the noise fade away and stepped into another world. Thank you for making space for that. Did this story bring you a moment of peace? A moment of reflection? I would love to know how it settled in your heart. It would also make my day to see a hello from your corner of the world in the comments below. This channel is meant to be a refuge, a quiet place where we can remember the power of a story that unfolds at its own pace. If you ever need a place like this to return to, I invite you to subscribe and join our quiet community. There will always be a story waiting for you here. Thank you for contributing to the peace of this space just by listening. Your presence is what makes it real. Until we meet again, may you find peace in your moments and a story in your heart.